Sri Gurubhyo Namaha. Welcome to our online teaching academy Ekalaiva. Today we are going to learn a prose lesson of class 11 CBSE English, The Summer of the Beautiful White Horse, written by William Saroyan, part 2. In the first part of this lesson, we saw that Maured and Aram belonged to the Geroglanian family, which was famous for its honesty. And due to their passion for riding and fun ones, they stole a beautiful white horse. And now we'll move on to the line by line explanation of this lesson. The horse leaped over 7 vines before I fell. Then it continued running. My cousin Maurat came running down the road. Now the horse began to move over vines, and Aram fell down. Maurat came running down the road towards Aram. "I am not worried about you," he shouted. "We have got to get that horse. You go this way and I will go this way. If you come upon him, be kindly, I'll be near." Maurat told him that he is not worried about Aram, but they need to find the horse, and they both went in different ways to find the horse. And moreover, he instructed Aram to be kind if he saw the horse anywhere. I continued down the road, and my cousin Maurat went across the field towards the irrigation ditch. Aram looked for the horse down the road, and Maurat went towards the irrigation ditch. It took him half an hour to find the horse and bring him back. "All right," he said, "jump on. The whole world is awake now." Maurat came back after 30 minutes with the horse. He told Aram to jump over, as the whole world is awake by then. "What will we do?" I said. "Well," he said, "we will either take him back or hide him until tomorrow morning." Aram asked what would they do, to which Maurat told him 2 options: to take the horse back or hide him until the next day morning. He did not sound worried, and I knew he would hide him and not take him back, not for a while at any rate. Maurat was not worried, and Aram knew that Maurat would hide him somewhere and not take him back for a while. "Where will we hide him?" I said. "I know a place," he said. "How long ago did you steal this horse?" I said. Aram asked him where Maurat would hide the horse. Maurat told him about a place he knew, which would be perfect as a hidden spot. And Aram eagerly asked him, when did he steal the horse? It suddenly dawned on me that he had been taking these early morning rides for some time, and had come for me this morning only because he knew how much I longed to ride. It appeared to him that Maurat had been taking the horse for morning rides for quite some time, and he showed up this morning to ask Aram to ride along because he knew he was longing to ride. "Who said anything about stealing a horse?" he said. Here Maurat shuts Aram down by asking a counter question about stealing a horse. "Anyhow," I said, "how long ago did you begin riding every morning?" "Not until this morning," he said. Aram tried to change the question by asking him since how long was he riding the horse every morning. Maurat told him that morning was the first time. "Are you telling the truth?" I said. Aram was not convinced and asked him whether he was telling the truth. "Of course not," he said. "But if we are found out, that is what you are to say. I don't want both of us to be liars." Mauret said if anyone asked Aram, he should say that it was true. He further added that he did not want them to be liars. All you know is that we started riding this morning, all right? I said. He walked the horse quietly to the bank of a deserted vineyard, which at one time had been the pride of a farmer named Fetvegian. There were some oats and dry alfalfa in the barn. Aram agreed, and Maured walked the horse quietly towards the barn of a deserted vineyard. It belonged to a farmer named Fetvegian, and there were some oats and alfalfa in the barn. Here alfalfa means a flowering plant. We began walking home. It wasn't easy, he said, to get the horse to behave so nicely. At first, it wanted to run wild. They started walking home, and Maured told Aram that it was not easy to get the horse to behave nicely, as it wanted to run wild at first. But as I have told you, I have a way with a horse. I can get it to want to do anything I want it to do. Horses understand me. He told him again that he had a way with a horse and he could get them to do whatever he wants. Horses understood him. How do you do it? I said. I have an understanding with a horse, he said. Aram amusingly asked him how he controlled the horse, to which Maured said he had an understanding with the horse. But what sort of an understanding? I said. A simple and honest one. Aram asked him what sort of understanding did he have with the horse. And Maured told him a simple and honest one. Well, I said, I wish I knew how to reach an understanding like that with a horse. Aram confessed he would also like to know how to have an understanding with a horse. You are still a small boy, he said. When you get to be 13, you will know how to do it. Maured assured him by saying that he is still a small boy. He will learn when he will be 13. I went home and ate a hearty breakfast. That afternoon, my uncle Khosrow came to our house for coffee and cigarettes. He sat in the parlour, sipping and smoking and remembering the old country. Then Aram went home and ate a hearty breakfast. And that afternoon, his uncle Khosrow came to their house for coffee and cigarettes. And then he sat in the parlour sipping and smoking and was remembering the old country. Then another visitor arrived, a farmer named John Biro, an Assyrian who out of loneliness had learned to speak Armenian. Then another visitor arrived. He was John Biro, an Assyrian, a farmer who learned to speak Armenian because of loneliness. My mother brought the lonely visitor coffee and tobacco, and he rolled a cigarette and sipped and smoked. And then at last, sighing sadly, he said, My white horse, which was stolen last month, is still gone. I can't understand it. His mother brought the lonely visitor some coffee and tobacco. He sipped and smoked, and then told about his missing white horse, which was stolen last month, and he is not able to find it. My uncle Khosrow became very irritated and shouted, It is no harm. What is the loss of your horse? Haven't we all lost the homeland? What is this crying over a horse? His uncle Khosrow became very irritated and he roared again that it is no harm and shouted that why he was crying over a lost horse. when they had lost their homeland. That may be all right for you, a city dweller to say, John Byro said. But what of my Surrey? What good is a Surrey without a horse? John Byro replied that it might be all right for a city dweller like Costo. And John Byro said that his Surrey was no good without a horse. Pay no attention to it, my uncle Costo wrote. I walked 10 miles to get here, John Byro said. You have legs, my uncle Costo shouted. And John Byro told him that he walked down 10 miles to get there. And Costo shouted that he has legs too, which John Byro said his left leg pained him. Instead of showing any sympathy or concern for his loss, Uncle Costo repeated his catchword. It is no harm, pay no attention to it. My left leg pains me, the farmer said. Pay no attention to it, my Uncle Costo roared. John Byro said that his left leg pained him as he walked 10 miles to get there. Costo again tried to shut him down by saying that he should not pay any attention to it. That horse cost me $60, the farmer said. John Byro shared that his horse cost him $60. I spit on money, my Uncle Costo said. He got up and stalked out of the house, slamming the screen door. Costo said that he would spit on money. And then he got up and stalked out of the house, slamming the screen door. My mother explained he has a gentle heart. She said it is simply that he is homesick and such a large man. Aaron's mother explained him that he had a gentle heart. She just kept supporting him. The farmer went away and I ran over to my cousin Mauret's house. He was sitting under a peach tree trying to repair the hurt wing of a young robin which could not fly. He was talking to the bird. Then the farmer, John Byro, went away and Aram went to Mauret's house. He was sitting under a peach tree talking to a young robin bird. He was repairing the wing that was hurt. What is it? He said. The farmer, John Byro, I said. Visited our house. He wants his horse. Aram told him about John Byro, who visited their house and wanted his horse. You have had it a month. I want you to promise not to take it back until I learn to ride. Aram asked him not to return the horse until he learns to ride it. It will take you a year to learn to ride, my cousin Mauret said. Mauret told Aram that it will take him a whole year to learn to ride a horse. We could keep the horse a year, I said. Aram said that they could keep the horse for a year then. My cousin leaped to his feet. What? He wrote. Are you inviting a member of the Geroglinian family to steal? Mauret stood up on his feet and shouted at him about encouraging him to be a thief in spite of being a member of the Geroglinian family. The horse must go back to its true owner. When? I said. In 6 months at the latest, he said. He declared that the horse should go to its true owner. Aram asked Mauret that when they have to return the horse, to which Mauret said in 6 months. He threw the bird into the air. The bird tried hard, almost fell twice, but at last flew away high and straight. He threw the bird into the air. It almost fell twice, but flew at last. Early every morning for 2 weeks, my cousin Mauret and I took the horse out of the barn of the deserted vineyard where we were hiding it and rode it. For the next 2 weeks, they took the horse out of the barn of the deserted vineyard and rode it. And every morning the horse, when it was my turn to ride alone, leaped over grapevines and small trees and threw me and ran away. And whenever it was Aram's turn, it leaped over grapevines and small trees and threw him and ran away. Nevertheless, I hoped in time to learn to ride the way my cousin Mauret rode. So he still hoped he would learn to ride the horse the way his cousin rode. One morning on the way to Fetvegian's deserted vineyard, we ran into the farmer John Byro, who was on his way to town. "Let me do the talking," my cousin Mauret said. "I have a way with farmers." Once on the way to the deserted vineyard to hide the horse again, they met John Byro, who was on his way to town. Mauret insisted on talking to John Byro as he had a way with farmers. "Good morning, John Byro," my cousin Mauret said to the farmer. Mauret wished John Byro good morning. The farmer studied the horse eagerly, and the farmer studied the horse carefully. "Good morning, son of my friends," he said. Byro wished them back. "What is the name of your horse?" "My heart," my cousin Mauret said in Armenian. "A lovely name," John Byro said, "for a lovely horse." Byro wished them back and asked the name of the horse. Mauret said, "My heart," in Armenian language. Byro complimented that it was a lovely name for a lovely horse. "I could swear it is the horse that was stolen from me many weeks ago. May I look into his mouth?" "Of course," Mauret said. The farmer looked into the mouth of the horse. John Byro swore that it was his horse that was stolen weeks ago. He asked whether he could look into the mouth of the horse, and Mauret agreed for that, and the farmer looked into the mouth of the horse. "Tooth for tooth," he said, "I would swear it is my horse if I didn't know your parents. The fame of your family for honesty is well known to me. Yet the ass is the twin of my horse." After looking from tooth to tooth, he said that it was his horse. He further said that he knew their family is all for honesty. Moreover, he trusted the boys as he knew their parents, and he said that the horse was a twin of his horse. A suspicious man would believe his eyes instead of his heart. "Good day, my young friends." "Good day, John Byro," my cousin Mauret said. A man who is suspicious would easily believe his eyes and not his heart. He wished them and went away, and Mauret wished him back. Early the following morning, we took the horse to John Byro's vineyard and put it in the barn. The dogs followed us around without making a sound. "The dogs," I whispered to my cousin Mauret. "I thought they would bark." The next morning, they took the horse back to John Byro's vineyard and put it in his barn. The dogs followed them around without barking. "They would at somebody else," he said. "I have a way with dogs." The dogs followed them around without barking. Mauret replied that they would not bark at them since he had a way with dogs. My cousin Mauret put his arms around the horse, pressed his nose into the horse's nose, patted it, and then we went away. Maured put his arms around the horse, and then he pressed his nose into the horse's nose. He patted the horse, and then they went away. That afternoon, John Biro came to our house in his surrey, showed my horse that had been stolen and returned. That same afternoon, John Biro came to Aram's house in his surrey and showed his mother the horse that had been stolen and returned. I don't know what to think, he said. The horse is stronger than ever, better tempered too. I thank God. John Biro said that he did not know what to think, as the horse had become stronger and better tempered, and he thanked God. My uncle Koshro, who was in the parlor, became irritated and shouted, "Quiet, man, quiet! Your horse has been returned. Pay no attention to it." Uncle Koshro, who was in the parlor, again got irritated and shouted at him to be quiet, as his horse had been returned, and not to pay attention to it. Hence, in order to uphold the family tradition and reputation, the boys returned the horse to its rightful owner. Thank you. I hope you would have understood and enjoyed this lesson. To receive our online lessons, please press the subscribe button and you will receive the latest updates.